So put your hand together for Clayton Cameron, huh?
All right, just a little background. A lot of times people ask me, they say, Clayton, with all the heavy hitters out there like Dennis Chambers, Vinny, Marvin Smitty Smith, to name a few, how can you pick up a pair of brushes and play? And I say, someone has to sweep up all those broken drumsticks. Ah, you like that. They asked me, what my influences were. Now, of course, there's the legendary players like Papa Joe Jones, Philly Joe Jones, Denzel Best, Vernell Fournier, Art Blakey, Tony Williams. All these shoulders that we're standing on, Max Roach. Besides them, it's like the inanimate objects that I grew up around, like my mother's washing machine. And I try to emulate them sounds. Sounds something like that. Then every now and then it would get off balance. Then after moving past the inanimate objects, for many years I worked with one of the greatest performers of all time, Mr. Sammy Davis Jr. Yeah, sure, you give him a hand. And Sammy, besides being a great impressionist, vocalist, drummer, he actually played drums. Had this great gold rim Louis Bellson, Buddy Rich set. Actually, and a Louis Bellson set. Double bass drum. He used to play on the show. But besides all that, he was a great hoofer, a tap dancer. So I used to listen to Sammy every night. And he comes out of a tradition of a tap dancer by the name of Bill Robinson and John Bubbles. And you'll see a lot of Bill Robinson, of course, with the Shirley Temple movies, where he would come out of the tradition of what they call buck dancing, where you would kind of like dance just straight up and down. But Bill Robinson introduced dancing on your toes. And so that started the whole hoofing craze. Anyway, Sammy would take those two artists, John Bubbles and Bill Robinson, and he would sound something like this. Sammy would sound something like that. Oh, yeah. Now, while working with Sammy, I got a chance to meet a lot of hoofers. And a few come to mind. We did a show for about 2 weeks with Jerry Lewis, and Sammy would introduce these other dancers. One was named Sandman Sims. And you would see Sandman Sims earlier on live at the Apollo show. He was the clown that would come out with the hook before he passed away. But anyway, Sandman Sam was known for putting sand on the ground and then sliding around. So when I would listen to Sandman, I would try to emulate his sound. And he would sound something like this. So Sandman Sims would sound something like that. So what I would do is take Sandman Sims and then Sammy Davis Jr., put them together, and they would sound something like this. That's Sandman and Sammy. Another tap dancer was Mr. Arthur Duncan. Now, Arthur was an acrobatic type dancer. He would kind of do what they call windmills, where he would take his leg and then do it in this kind of fashion. And his taps, he would hit his toe and his heel as they circulated, like almost like a 380 degree, 360. Anyway, Arthur would sound something like this. Thank you, Arthur Duncan. So I take Sammy Davis Jr., Arthur Duncan, and Sandman Sims, and put them together, and they would sound something like this. Yeah, so Sandman Sims, Arthur Duncan, Sammy Davis Jr. Then there was another guy by the name of Bunny Briggs. Now, Bunny, he would take the style of Bill Robinson and John Bubbles, but he would barely lift his feet off the ground. So he used to do these little rapid fire taps and almost like a muffled sound. So he would sound something like this. So I would take Sammy Davis Jr., Sandman Sims, Arthur Duncan, and Bunny Briggs, and put them together and they would sound something like this. Now, last but not least, another fine dancer that I had the pleasure of working with. Well, he was great. He died way too soon. Was Gregory Hines. And Gregory stood on the shoulders, like we do, of many drummers. He stood on the shoulders of all these guys. Now you have Savion Glover standing on these guys' shoulders, including Gregory. But anyway, Gregory would kind of take the traditional tap, all the buck dancing and the tap and the sliding and all that. Any kind of music that he listened to was a little more contemporary, so he kind of put the little funk in there. So when I was working with Gregory, he would do stuff like this. So I would take Sammy Davis Jr. I hear you over there, Kenny. He's just cracking me up. Sandman Sims, Arthur Duncan, Bunny Briggs, and Gregory Hines, and put them together, and they would sound something like this. Thank you. So that's a few of my influences over the years. Yeah, any questions? Yep. I don't tap dance. The question is, do I tap dance? What's funny is, for many years I thought that I would. And there was literally a 2-week period where I was working with all these guys, Sammy, Arthur Duncan, Bunny Briggs, Sandman Sims, and Gregory came in for 2 nights. And those 2 weeks really was an epiphany for me, in that listening to these guys do all their different styles, I tried to start coming up with different ways to emulate their sound. And so that's how I kind of developed all these different techniques through them. And one time I was hanging out with Bunny Briggs and Sandman during the daytime, and this is in Las Vegas. We were working at Bally's Hotel with Jerry Lewis. And so I would say, hey, Sandman, I heard you play this last night. Then I would try to, show him, kind of, take his lick and play with the brushes. And so they both looked at me and they said, they would call me Baby Boy for whatever reason. Baby Boy? He said, we have it in our feet and you have it in your hands. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, then I don't have to learn how to tap dance after all these years. I'll just keep doing it with this. So I never learned to tap dance. I always wanted to, but I was always around the dancers. So, here it is. It comes to me in a different way. He was asking me probably about the rim roll. Want to do like that? Okay. Was I doing something like that's what I'm saying? Yeah, so what I'm doing is, he's asking about the rim roll. And if you all look on a sheet that you have, that I've handed out, called brush rudiments, there's 17 of them. And you'll see on there the rim roll exercise. So I have a little symbol there across the note, the 3rd and 4th eighth note, and then the 7th and 8th eighth note. Now, everybody knows how to do a paradiddle. Oh, maybe not. For those of you who don't know how to do a paradiddle, it's right, left, right, and then left, right, left, left. Now, with a parafiddle, instead of the diddle, which is succeeding taps with each hand, we do succeeding rolls. Okay? Now, if you're playing match grip, it's okay. If you're playing traditional, okay, so that's the parafiddle. So basically, it's just another sound, and really that was another thing. Most of these rudiments came out of me watching the tap dancers, and then then the stuff kind of evolving. So that was just one of those things that I had to figure out a way to roll and pick up the brush. So what you're doing is here, and then you bring it back. Here, and you bring it back. Same thing here, and you bring it back. And here, and you bring it back. Now, if you're going that way alone, that's a whole other thing. And you just kind of have to roll the brush and then catch that as it's flying off. Yeah. it's fun. So, yeah, so that's called parafiddle. Just since we're on that whole rudiment thing, one thing I love about brushes is the different sounds that you can come up with. Of course, there's the traditional playing with the tip of the brush. Then using the body of the brush so then there's a muted sound. Okay, so you hear that. Then, of course, the sweeping sounds. Now, this is what I like to get into we have short sweeps and legato sweeps, or staccato sweeps and legato. So the first one I want to talk about is, we already talked about the tap, but the sweeping. Okay, the short sweep, you can either go like this, like that, this, or like that. Then we have another type of short sweep where you keep it on the head of the drum when you go back and forth as opposed to lifting. Then last but not least is a clasping sweep where you just close your hand like this. Clasping sweep. So those are the 3 short sweeps. Then the long sweep, and I'm going to come back to all these things and show you how to put them together. The legato sweep you do by making a oval type pattern, just across and back, across and back. Now the main thing to remember, my whole mantra in the book that I wrote, Brushworks, is that the way you create rhythm when sweeping is by changing direction. So in other words, if you just started sweeping and you never went back the other way, you would hear one long hiss with no rhythm. So by changing direction gives you rhythm. I feel like Jeff and the Wiggles about to fall asleep. It's like it's hypnotic. Anyway, so yeah, by changing direction, you create rhythm. Now, let's put all those things together. Let's say you want to play a traditional swing pattern, usually here on the cymbal. Okay, so you do that in the right hand, say, or your left hand. Okay, now we're going to add the left hand, changing direction, 1, 2, on quarter notes. Okay, now, one of the biggest, most recurring questions that I get about playing brushes is like, how do you, when you're playing a pattern like that, a traditional swing pattern, how do you fill in? How do you make a fill? Well, one thing to keep in mind, when you're talking about drums and tap dancing, they really all meld together. There's a famous recording, of course, of Sing, Sing, Sing with Gene Krupa, and I think the beat is... and he does that on the tom-toms. Well, really what that is a time step with tap dancers. So if you hear tap dance, now keep maybe like a time step in mind. Speed it up. Now, choreography. If you're not careful, you can start having this kind of thing going on. Looks like spaghetti. So what you want to do is there's a choreography in here where you have let's say your quarter notes in your left hand playing, or your right hand playing an oval pattern. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. So basically I'm trying to avoid them colliding. I mean, you could just put it for faster tempos. You're actually going to want to leave the brush in kind of a smaller area, because now because time and space go together. If you're playing a really slow tempo, I mean, you're going to want to have the space so that you're not rushing or slowing down. Just like if you were playing a groove. You don't want to go, the space gives you the time. So the same thing happens when you're playing brushes. If I'm playing a real slow tempo, I'm going to have a bigger oval pattern. If I'm playing faster, a little faster tempo, it gets a little smaller. Now, of course, if you're trying to get all the way around there, then the motion through the space is going to be quicker. So I'm going from point A to B with a faster tempo. Now I'm moving quicker through from point A to B as opposed to slower. Or you can make smaller circles with less motion. Okay, now with that in mind, I want to play something for you. This is Papa Joe Jones playing. Now that I've given you the traditional swing pattern, you can hear Papa Joe keeping time and in playing all the little subtleties in between, using his hi-hat and all that. And one thing I want you to notice is how he uses his hi-hat. You guys ever hear the phrase, hold that tiger, boom, hold that tiger, boom? That's out of vaudeville. And talking about the tap dancing and the playing of drums, listen to Papa Joe as he does kind of like a hold that tiger groove inside the groove he's playing using the hi-hat. So can we run that first track, please? Papa Joe Jones on a tune called I Got Rhythm.
Jam number 2.
Now you hear less legato because he's now doing like this. Now he's going to go back to the legato. Now he fills it in. Yeah, something. I mean, he is the the father of the modern hi-hat that we play today. Because prior to these cymbals being called a hi-hat, they were called the lowboy. They were sock cymbals. They were by your sock. So no one played them with the sticks. They just kept time. If you can imagine, the inception of the trap set, which was called a contraption by people who weren't drummers. What are you doing with that contraption over there, boy? And then they shortened it to a trap set. Well, this is an integral part of the drum set that we play today. And prior to the tempo blocks, four tom-toms, we had the tempo blocks up there. If you look at any, photos with Chick Webb, you'll see tempo blocks on the bass drum. And the bass drum, of course, was used for marching. Then finally, a guy by the name of D.D. Chandler out of New Orleans in the early 1900s invented the bass drum pedal. So now, the drum set is just barely over 100 years old. And so it's to me an honor to even know some of the cats, or to have met some of the gentlemen who were there at the inception of this. And Papa Joe Jones is one of those people. So for him he lifted us up, and then he used to play hi-hat solos. He used to do stuff like this. I'm going on a tangent here, but it's a little drum history. So prior to Papa Joe Jones, he didn't do that. I mean, there was, he lifted it up himself and came up with, with a high hat, if you will. So anyway, that's a little piece of history. So that's Papa Joe Jones on the brushes. Any questions about that? Okay, I want to play the next track for you. Now we're going to get into the short sweeps. And this is a gentleman by the name of Vernell Fournier who played with Ahmad Jamal for many years. Now before we play it, sorry, looking for my list here. Yeah, so I was talking about short sweeps. I want you to listen to this track and keep in mind this particular technique. We got this going on, right? Now watch what happens when I'm just playing quarter notes with that. The returning note is a ghost note, I call it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now the right hand I'm going to play dotted 8th note, 16th note starting on beat 2 and starting on beat 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, pretty simple. Now you put them together. 1. Okay, so just keep that in mind. That's the sort of technique he's using on this track. It's called It Could Happen to You, Vernell Fournier. Can we run that track number 2, please, Mr. DJ? Muffled stroke, cymbal at the same time, snares off. Isn't that cool, how that works in the music? So you see there's completely two different styles of tune. Well, one's more of a medium swing, the other one's an up tempo. And then the approach is totally different. Papa Joe is playing mainly a traditional pattern using the tip of the brush. While Vernell Fournier on this particular tune is using more of what I call the clasping sweeps. Actually, he's playing 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. But still clasping, all clasping. So there's not just one way to play with brushes. Okay, so anyway, any questions on that? Okay. Oh, yep, sorry. Sure. His question is, how am I controlling the right hand when we're playing an up-tempo swing tune? It's just like anything else. You got to do it slowly. The difference between playing with a stick on a cymbal is, of course, you have some sort of rebound if you're playing an up-tempo. So what's happening is you find you're catching your release. So you find that, but you're having a catch and release and a rebound thing. The problem with brushes on that sort of thing is there's no rebound. You basically have to... Now, one thing you can do, to answer your question, how do we control it? There's the... where you can... It's not really bouncing to you, but you can here and then here. So that's one way to do it. So you're... Another way to do it is just to change the pattern completely. And that is to do what we call a gallop. Philly Joe Jones used to play this all the time. Not that he needed to, but sometimes you have to go to certain things to keep the music going. So some people call it cheating. I would never call it that. Never with Philly Joe Jones or any good drummer in his right mind. So might get my thoughts together. 1, 2, 3, slowly. One. We're going to do staccato sweeps in the left hand, and we're going to do, we'll call it cut time. We're doing dotted quarter note, eighth, dotted quarter note, eighth. 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 1, 2, and 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 1. So that is basically what that pattern is. Now, what's the beauty about this is, we mentioned short sweeps before, staccato where you lift. Then there's the other kind where you, staccato legato I call it, where you don't lift the head, and it will sound something like this. So now you don't lift the brush. Lifting. Then the last one is using the clasping sweep. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. And sometimes I like to play it with my palm down as opposed to here. It's still clasping though. You're here, 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 as opposed to here, here, here. Oh, thanks. Yeah, so there are your alternatives. So playing the traditional, or using the gallop. Okay, so those are 3 ways to do that. That's what I call the flex symbol. Now, rim flex is this. When a movable object meets an immovable object. Ooh, yeah, that's pretty good. So it stops and it causes the brushes to flex. Now the key is being able to control the number of flexes that you're getting. So when you first start off, I would just recommend keeping your hands very low on the drum, almost like here and here. So you're just here. So when you're doing that, it's just flexing. Then slowly start working by pronating the handle of the brush around the rim. Don't try to hit at the same time, it never works. Just that and then that. Then after a while, you start getting together. So let's say you want to play 3. Okay? Da-da-da, 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 da-da-da. Da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da. Da-da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da. And then when I get back to the something like triplets or 6s or duples, I just go. So for each time that I stroke the rim, I'm going to hit 2 times with the brush. Now, 3 times, so on and so forth. So when you get into the roll, all this represents is, let's say 5-stroke roll. 5-stroke roll, everyone knows sounds like this. Da, 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 da. So what we do here, though, is we're going to do 2 strokes here. For every stroke, you're going to get 2, so that's 4. Da, 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 and then the opposite hand is going to play the last note. So it's, that's your 5-stroke roll. Okay? So for every 1, I get 2. Okay, so thank you. So now 7-stroke roll. 2, 4, 6, 7. 2, 4, 6, 7. So now you're going to do 3 strokes, which is going to add up to 6. Then you end up the last one. Okay, so yeah. So that's the 7-stroke. But when you look at brush stroke, what's the name of my book? Brushworks. Yeah, that's it. It'll show you, again, what I'm explaining to you, that for each time you hit this, you're getting 2. Now another fun one, if you look down to 90, you'll notice that the flex symbol is over 3 notes. Okay? So what you're going to do is, so that's what you're seeing there is the triplet flex roll. So for every 1, you're getting 3. That's where the control comes in, where you're pronating the shaft around the rim. Okay. So on and so forth. I mean, there's all kinds of techniques with the stick where you're using a rebound. I mean, there's the and then there's a right. Now the only difference is that you can't get into the other things. This is similar in that I'm getting 2 for 1. 1, 2 when I lift up. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. R1. Okay, so that is similar. Or that's the same actually. Now, when you get into the other things, that's going to be a little different because now you don't have the flex part of it. But yeah, the motion would be the same. Okay, let's stop getting crazy. All right, so anyway, yeah, they're the same until you get into the multiple flexes after 2. Yes. His question was, does having the rubber handle help with the rim technique? Absolutely. What happens is, if you don't have any grip, it slides. So here I can't do a rim roll because the wood just slides right across a similarly hard surface. Of course, now it's like rubber on pavement. So now this grabs, so yes, I can now roll. So that's why very seldom when you see me play with a wood handle brush. I may do it in the studio because I may just be doing something that doesn't require that, but I like the sound. So yes, you're absolutely right. So here, it's a whole different thing going on. Yep. Yep. Oh, great. His question is pertaining to the rudiments. Inside Brushworks, because these pages are from Brushworks, I've tried to codify the sounds, try to put codes to every sound that I can think of. One of the things that I'm using, one of the symbols I'm using are arrows to show direction of short sweeps. If you look at the first number 74, that's called tap sweep. Now, you guys can do some editing for me. There's an arrow that's out of place. The first arrow is in the correct position. The next arrow should go back the other way. The reason I say that is because this is what I'm going to show you now. The tap sweep, I'm going to go right. So I'm going to do an outward sweep. And then the next one, tap, sweep. It's supposed to be another outward sweep. So it's supposed to go to the left. The second one is written correctly. So it's 1. Okay. Now the next one is called a triplet sweep, and notice the direction of the arrows. Both of them. Better have this right. That arrow is wrong too. Okay, the second arrow should be the opposite direction. So those arrows indicate a sweep. And then the next one is triplet, sweepelet. Just the right hand first. Okay. So to answer your question, the arrows are to show direction. Now, in arrow combinations, let's look at the slittle tap. So now we have 2 opposing arrows, okay? They're doing this, right? Left hand. Start slowly, please. Okay. Pair of slittle, diddle. Pair of slittle. So you have opposing arrows. Each hand starts with an inward sweep towards my body, and then away. So. Okay, so that's a pair of slittle. Yep, thanks. It's a little inverted paraslittle. So the arrows, once again, are showing direction. Now, if you look down at the slittle sweep tap number 81, that one has the legato symbol underneath it as well as the short sweep symbol. So what the heck is going on? In Brushworks, this is what I call a staccato legato combination. By having the symbol of legato means you're not going to lift the brush off the head of the drum. Like other instruments, if you have a legato symbol, it means you're going to sustain a note for however long it's written. So now we have direction changes with the arrows, which is 1 and 2, okay? Now with the legato symbol means we're not going to lift that, so it's going to sound like this, 1 and 2. So we didn't lift, but they're short sweeps as opposed to legato. If we didn't have the arrows up there, we would go like this, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Now we're going to go 1 and 2. But now in the last of the 4 notes, there's no arrow or legato symbol. So what we're going to do is just play an ordinary tap. It sounds like this. So 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2. Now sped up, that sounds like this. Right? DJ? So. Okay, now we're going to get to the original question. If you look at number 86, it's called a trill. Now these arrows are not opposing, they're all going in the same direction. So if we started with the right hand, it's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Now the arrows are going in the same direction. This is where we use the clasping sweep. So you're going to go 1, you're going to return with a ghost note, 2, return with a ghost note, like that, okay? So it's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 TL2 liquid triplet, da da da, 1 E 2 E 3 E 4 E. That one's not on there. So basically, you just build up your endurance, and it gets quicker. But you can do it in time. That's the key. It's not just a random flutter sort of thing. So you can really. I just did a session last week. I think Tim mentioned it was with John Mayer, and so we had a groove on there. Steve Jordan was producing it, and playing drums. So I played a cocktail kit with brushes, and he played, snare, kick, and hi-hat. And so my whole part on one of the tunes was just to play. John wanted to have the brushes fill in kind of fill in while Steve just played, just a real straight beat. I think it was something. He played snare drum, not with the snares on, so let's try that again. So it's something like that, just, and I played. Now, you would think that we would just loop that, but I did it through the whole tune. And then when we went to the bridge, so that's all I did for the whole tune. But when you hear it, it sounds great. It's just one of those simple things. That was just one. We did like 4 tunes, but that was just one of the tunes. So that right there is the clasping sweep, just 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and then filling in with the left hand, sometimes with straight eighth notes or with the kind of looping triplet feel. So that was really fun. Okay, playing on a cymbal with brushes. A lot of times you hear on recordings, I mean, you hear a lot of color. Depending on what you're trying to do, trying to fill in. I had a situation where I was playing with Tony Bennett, where sometimes I would want to play on the bridges or on a change in the music, may have a different sound than from on the snare. So I would go to the cymbal a lot of times for that. But in that particular situation, I chose a dry cymbal with very little ring, because what happens sometimes this right here has the rivets in it, and it's a flat cymbal. So of course, when you have a flat ride, you don't have the highs that you have when you have a bell. So it kind of gets lost in there. You can hear it, but if you got the whole band playing, you're not probably going to hear that. So usually I like a drier sound, and with some sort of bell on it if I'm going to ride. The bigger the bell, the higher the pitch you're going to have. Smaller the bell, lower the pitch can be, and thinner the cymbal. So that particular situation, I like more of a dry sound so it can cut through. When I'm using this sort of thing, it's more for color, where I might be playing a ballad, and we should talk about ballads too. I may be using the legato sweeps to play a ballad pattern. 1, 2, 3, 4. So now you have a sustain between the beats. Now my left hand, I'm talking about the legato sweep, changing direction. 2, 1, 2. So now I'm not playing straight notes, eighth notes. I'm changing direction, like a quarter note, eighth note, triplet pattern. 1, triplet, triplet, triplet. Now with the right hand, I have a little legato sweep, and then at the end, I do a little clasping. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, or without it. 1 and 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Clasping sweeps, playing triplets. So now we're using legato sweeps with the short sweeps, clasping in that particular demonstration. So you can take all these different colors and you put them together and make some really nice grooves with those. So did someone ask me a question? I forgot what it was. Or did I just go off on a tangent? Oh, right, okay. I knew it was something. Yeah, so again, for me, using the rivets, the sustain, maybe a little drier sound so they can hear it, but every situation is going to be different. Can I play any cymbals on John's thing? No, I didn't. I didn't think of what I did. So, but anyway, back to the same thing. For sustain, I like the rivets, lower sounding cymbal, just to give me color in between. Of course, all the rolling and sound effects. So, yeah, it's just a kind of experiment, but those are kind of the basic things for me. Playing the back end of the brushes, getting in and out of that. So funny story to me. I was doing a recording session one time with Billy Childs, and we played this tune called Jazz Mania. And it just kind of goes along with the Perdido Alto pattern. Okay, so I'm just kind of going along like that. So I'm reading the music. And then it gets to this section that has a whatever goes on and on. And so I'm playing with the brushes. Okay, so I'm doing all that, but it's not really cutting. And so then I had a pair of brushes like, not like these, but I'll show you in a second. Well, sorry. I thought I had some retractable brushes up here, but I don't. Anyway, the retractable brush has the little, you can pull the little stem out, and it retracts the brush into the body, hollow body of the brush. And then it has a little ring on the end. I'm sure you guys have seen that. So I tried turning those around and playing on the tongs, but all I was hearing was now this little tinny sound with the wire, not the wire, with the stem on the end. So that's how I ended up designing these brushes, because I wanted to be able to go from playing something like that Partido Alto pattern into playing maybe a tom fill or going to the cymbal, whatever it was. So that session frustrated me a little bit. It still sounded good, it still sounded okay, but I was hearing something else. So, but then, to make matters worse, in a situation like that too, is like, how do I get from going from here to going to here? So I mean, there's all kinds of ways you can do it, and juggling and all that. But I wanted to find the most efficient way. So I ended up just kind of developing this drop finger technique, where if I'm playing here, So the way you do it is just really, you just let gravity take over. You let this swing like 180 there from one side to the next. So you're here, you let it swing there. So then you let it drop down to the drum. So really, I'm not doing anything other than whipping it down. Boom. A little lift in there and then down. A little lift and then down. A little lift and then down. So anyway, so that's kind of how that whole thing developed. Did I answer your question? Okay. How do I get the pop? Oh, yeah. So, one of the things I do is here, and then this little thing here is, it's like a plastic. So I developed that when I designed the brush, so that when I'm hitting a rim or, right? So same thing here. Is that what you're talking about? Yeah. That's what that is inside there. So that's basically a cross stick. It's just a cross stick or a cross brush. Yeah, in manufacturer. So the wire is pretty much the same, except you can see the length of the handles are different. Now, for me, my handle is slightly longer for balance, and the wire is slightly longer. Let's see. Oh, it's supposed to be. But anyway, the handle's a little longer, and so it's for all the things that you see me do, it's for that. This is more your traditional brush with the thinner handle. Actually, this handle is actually underneath here, underneath the rubber. So, and then I added a little length to it, as you can see. So that's what that is. And so really, this is a balance issue, and this is the feel of this brush. Of course, it's not retractable, so the spread that you get will have to be adjusted kind of like by either combing it out like this or pinching it like that, so you get a shorter spread. And these here, now it's all rubber handle. It's a little shorter, so the balance is a little different, but the wire is the same. And I do like this because sometimes I like the sound of turning that around and playing it on the drum set as well. And these are good for all the other little things that I do, the rim flexes. But the handle's a little shorter, so it's not as much balance for doing the other things. It takes a little more effort. You dig? So those are cool. Now these are a plastic brush, and with the advent of plastic, the thickness, the gauge is heavier. It's thicker than the wire. So it gives you a different sound. A lot of traditionalists don't like plastic brushes, but I know that there are some great drummers that use plastic brushes. And I use them in sessions most of the time. I don't play them live very much. But anyway, the difference is with the thicker gauge, if you can imagine a magnifying version of the snare head, you have crevices. And so the wire is a little thinner, so it gets deeper into the crevices, so you're going to have a different sound than with these, which is going to slide across the top because it's not going to get down as deep. Now, the advantage of these is if you do have a particularly smooth head, you can kind of get away with a lot of things because you need a rough head to get resistance, which creates the sound. I mean, if you'll notice the difference between this, well, not much difference. But anyway, a smoother head is going to give less resistance. So the more resistance you have, the more sound you're going to get. There's a little difference there. You can hear the brightness. That's not as bright. And with this, it's a little heavier. So there's a slight sound change in that. So anyway, so depending on what you're trying to do, get the heavier gauge, plastic, you get the longer handles, that sort of thing. So they're all different. And last but not least, this is actually a Jeff Hamilton model, and this brush has a stiffer wire. It's not as flexible as this one, or any of the other ones. It's a much stiffer wire, and of course, this is a retractable brush, so you can adjust the fan of it. So there it is. The multitude, the potpourri of brushes. Thank you guys and gals very much.